Tell us what it is.
I mean, it's in the building, so I feel like this is good. We're starting at a good base level of knowledge. Diversity and community involvement houses 4 areas from the Center for Multicultural Affairs. So that's where you get all your cultural heritage months, Black History Month, Asian Pacific Islander, a lot of race and privilege stuff. And then we have the Women's Center. Makes enough sense, right? So we get the vagina monologues come through there, but we also have programming for men around sexual violence. The LGBT Resource Center, which is what I oversee, which is the Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Resource Center. And then Vision, which is the Volunteer Center, so people who have heard of Alternative Spring Breaks or America Reads is also through there. So what we do, so I'll say a few things. Our department is called Diversity and Community Involvement. Diversity is a fluff word. It doesn't really mean anything. Diversity, when people hear it, they think 100 different things. And for a lot of people, it's what something looks like. So we're diverse because we've got some Asian people working with us. Or we're diverse because we know we got some gay kids. Like, basically what this means is that we don't really get underneath the surface to, one, figure out who we are, why we have biases. We all admit from the get-go that we have some biases. I think it's impossible. I would love to chat with you if you are one of these people that are sitting here now and they're like, I do not have any biases. I'm colorblind, and the colorblind is a really weird thing to say, especially if you're not a person of color. For instance, if there are 100 people in a room and there's 3 black people, something's happening for those 3 folks. And so for white people to be like, it's cool because I can't see color. If you can't see color, you're basically saying that you are not honoring their identity. Or your own identity for that matter. Because we all come from 100 different places, right? I don't know what your family told you about stuff. I don't know what your religion tells you about stuff. But today, what we're going to do, I'm going to talk a lot less than you are because you all are the ones that are important in this. You all work together, right? You have some conversations. How many people in here while they've been at work doesn't necessarily mean that somebody in this room has heard something that's not really you. Somebody says something that's either racist, homophobic, gender-specific, joke about somebody else, or just kind of a measure that doesn't sound really that accepting. Show hands. Okay. The majority of the room. A lot of times when we start working with people, we get comfortable. We do it in DCI all the time. We have to check ourselves. So we do all this hard work, and then we think it's okay to make jokes that are kind of inappropriate because we're trying to lessen the blow of what we do a little bit. So we have to remember, one, we don't know who's in earshot, right? We don't know who we're saying what in front of. And so a little deeper than diversity is what we call social identity. And I would tell you to tell me what social identity is, but you could just kind of read the words around the room and then win it. And so without saying those words, can somebody talk to me about social identity? What does it mean?
It's a person-based identifier, but it kind of depends on what you view yourself as.
Okay. So how you identify yourself and different components and aspects of that, right? We all define ourselves by different groups that we belong to. And as you can look around the room right now, you can already see that there is some stuff. But yeah, we fall into, and there's categories within that. So what we're going to do, we're actually going to do 2 different activities. The first one, and I apologize for those fingers, but get it? Sorry. For those of you still eating, you can feel free to bring your piece of pizza along. So what's going to happen, you can see that there are some things hung up around the room. How many people have done this activity with us before? Okay, so we always start with this, no matter how many times people have done it, and we'll talk about why that's the case. The majority of you have not done it, so that's good. And then we're going to do another piece after that. So if you have done that, I apologize in advance, but it's always a good conversation. What you see around the room are some words, right? So we got back in the corner by the camera, education, where you call home, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, race, disability, gender, ethnicity, religion, spirituality, family, appearance, and body image. You get to define these things however you want to define them and interpret them however you want to interpret them. The only one that I'd like to have a fast conversation about is who can tell me the difference between race and ethnicity. We can look at each other for the most part and tell somebody's race. Not all the time though, right? However, you probably can't look at me. I mean, sometimes we feel like we can, but you probably can't look at me and be like, ah, she's part Portuguese, part Irish. Like, that'd be weird. It'd be cool if you could do that. It'd be like a witch. But for the most part, we can't do that. And so that is the difference, just so we know the difference between race and ethnicity. So what is going to happen here is everybody's going to stand up. And I'm going to read a series of statements. And each statement, you are going to go stand wherever you see fit based on whatever statement I read. There is only one rule, and I have already heard that you are an amazing group of individuals. I didn't hear that, but I'm trying to empower you.
They are, it's true.
Okay. The only rule is that this is totally nonverbal. And even from the standpoint of like, even if I have no idea why, like laughing is still verbal, right? So we want to totally be nonverbal. This takes a solid 6 minutes maybe to get through, do we think? Is everybody able-bodied in here? Everybody can walk?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Make sense? We get it? Okay. So stand up. Take your time. Don't feel like you can mow each other over. This is not a
I have no idea what's going on.
This is the aspect of my identity that I am most comfortable discussing. This is the aspect of my identity that I am most comfortable discussing.
Oh, we gotta walk so
This is a category. Sorry.
Stand over here and looking after this, holding the camera.
I think that's just great.
That would be great. There's only one rule. I mean, if you feel like you have to stand in the middle, you can. This is the aspect of my identity that I am least comfortable discussing. This is the aspect of my identity that I am least comfortable discussing.
This is my cat.
I think about this aspect of my identity the most. I think about this aspect of my identity the most. I know the least about this aspect of my identity. I know the least about this aspect of my identity. I have experienced the most joy around this aspect of my identity. I have experienced the most joy around this aspect of my identity. experience the most pain around this aspect of my identity. I experience the most pain around this aspect of my identity. This aspect of my identity is the most invisible to other people. This aspect of my identity is the most invisible to other people. I feel the most judged by this aspect of my identity. I feel the most judged by this aspect of my identity. Since I have come to college, this aspect of my identity has changed the most. Since I have come to college, this is the aspect of my identity that has changed the most. Okay, you can go ahead and have a seat. Thank you for being nonverbal.
It's gonna be very entertaining for the person who watches this. Camera's gonna be like,
So, before we unpack, somebody or anybody, give me some gut reactions. Not observations; those are different. We're going to talk about observations. I mean, if you guys want to say, just get it out. I want your voice to be heard. Heard, safe, safe. Gut reactions. Yeah.
Looking around the room, some of the, like as a gut reaction, some of them I wasn't surprised about, knowing some of the people, and some of them I was surprised.
Okay.
It was slightly different than the last time I've done this before. Structurally different.
Yeah, and that's a great point, and that's why we continue to do this, because people are like, it changes. I mean, even your stuff, like, I don't know if you can remember, I can never remember where I went, like the time before that. What else?
It's a little awkward because you think, like, I wonder what people are thinking right now. Maybe not thinking the same everyone.
Yeah, and I think it's fair, I mean, it's basic human nature to look around and see where people are at, right? But then when you're doing that, you realize, oh, shoot. If I'm looking, and they're looking, and then what are they thinking? What I'm seeing in here. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we can all say this, right? Like, I am a white, whatever. But we don't really process, for the most part, on a deeper level, I guess, what that is. What other observations? Like, is there any kind of, like, you're like, wow, people all going to a place, or you're in a place where you don't think somebody else is going?
I know that the looks on people's faces are kind of like surprising because of the fact that it looks like it's opening stores in your life, or like, you know how you close a chapter in your life and you're done with it.
Yeah.
And when the questions actually asked, you don't realize it, but you have to open that store again.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
And I think you said that too. Like, this is vulnerable. This is kind of a vulnerable exercise. I mean, even if you're feeling cool about it, like, it's still vulnerable that we're all moving through doing this. And the other part is that it's kind of triggering. Like, all of a sudden you're like, I didn't really want to think about my mom today. Thanks. Can't wait for Thanksgiving. You know, like, we got stuff. We got baggage. Any other open observations?
Just a couple of them were hard for me to choose from because a couple of them had like the same report.
Oh, heck yeah. So, intersection of identities, right? They're not separate. So that's also a good point. And that's why it never surprised me, one, when people want to either stay in the middle or they're like, dang, like you got to pick a hierarchy between being different things, which they are the same.
During like some of the questions, I kind of figured that where I would see like most people at, as far as like the happiest, you know, place, or the happiest time you have, and like people at now. That's just what I'm
Yeah. Family's always an interesting one, like for the joy and pain part. Did anybody stay in the same place for joy and pain? Yeah. So it can bring us both. And then we also see some direct trend shift, like folks leave the area that brought them joy, for that matter. So somebody said a little bit about this. What do we know when we're doing this, and what don't we know? So I'm doing this, I'm going in places. What do I know about where people are standing or where I'm standing, and what don't we know? Because it's nonverbal. So, yeah.
I'm going to say that we don't know the extent of importance each position contains to this person.
Absolutely. We don't know the extent. We don't know the story. We don't know how somebody's identifying that part for them. Even with family, some people can be thinking biological family. Some people can think chosen family. Some people define those things really differently. But we start making assumptions, for sure. One of my most favorite stories, because I was absolutely guilty of it myself. How many folks are familiar with the SIP program here? So SIP is Summer Incentive Program. Young people prior to coming into the university have this, some of them will refer to it as a boot camp, 7 weeks in the summer. They got to do some pretty extensive academic stuff, but there's also these sessions. And so we went in to do these sessions, and you got to think, like, even the time that you are, the summer before you came to college, are you the same person you are right now? No. You've already kind of, like, got some critical thinking going on. So to do this with 17 and 18-year-olds prior to them even getting to college is a little challenging, right? So we do this, and I do it with Charlie Page, who runs the Center for Multicultural Affairs. And there are a significant number of young black males in this group. And I read what has brought you the most pride or joy. What has brought you the most joy? And like 10 of them go to sexual orientation. I'm like, well, the world is just a better place that these young men can feel like they can just stand on their sexual orientation and be proud of who they are. And Charlie's like, they're talking about having sex with girls. I'm like, oh, they're not gay. I know. That would be crazy. Because I have now gotten used to people, that is what that means for sexual orientation, gay. Like if I'm standing under there, that's what it means. Because that's how other people are viewing what they think that means. That's not always the case. A lot of folks stand under sexual orientation when we're talking about behavior-based stuff or different things. But even in my own head, I'm like, I've seen it done enough times that that's what I thought it meant, for that matter. We set it up. So we talked a little bit. What do you learn about yourself? Why does this stuff matter? We hear it, we process it, we go somewhere. Why does it matter? Or does it? There.
Because it faces us every single day. Like, we go through all these challenges, and we go through other people that are going through these challenges, like, even on our own university, on our own campus. So it affects us every single day, in every possible way, of everyone that we can.
Okay.
I was going to basically say what she said, but to ask that, like, it just identifies who you are, and it brings, like, together all the hardships and obstacles you have to go through. It's what strengthens us, it's our weaknesses, so it's kind of like our whole identity.
Right, and this stuff exists. Yeah, go.
It's also interpersonal strength.
thread here. We all have a story. We don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea what your story is. I have no idea what your story is. I have no idea what your story is. Well, I kind of know your story a little bit. But everything that I am and everything that I do weighs in on how I interface with you. We see a lot of overcompensating. People overcompensate when they aren't comfortable with who they are. So, for instance, it's the age-old. Sometimes white people overcompensate when they're talking to a black person because they want to make sure they know the black person that I don't have any thoughts about black people, so I'm like, hey, and I'm over the top and I don't communicate the same way because I'm nervous that they think that I'm not accepted. We see it with gay folks too. We say things to gay people that we would never say to straight people. That's really when we're trying to be accepting. Like, I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited that you're dating him. That is just the greatest thing ever. I think that is so fantastic. We don't do that with straight people. We're not like, hey, you have that boyfriend, and I just think it's so great. I just want to say that I was thinking about it yesterday, and I just do a hug. Like, that's weird. We overcompensate. And it's mostly because we're just not sure. We don't know what to do, which is okay. But then when we kind of get into the swing of, okay, well, this is why, this is where I come from, this is what I know. And so this stuff, for the most part, is about us, right? You just did this for you. You can't do this for other people. But what I'm going to ask you to do now is dig a little. Don't start writing on the sheet before I tell you what to do. You'll be put to death. That's too much, wasn't it? Sorry. Carlos here. So, the sheet that you're about to get, I hope I have enough. I have a copy of it. I don't. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many people are this? So bad I can only know. We'll see. How many people do you think are here?
Probably don't have to record this one.
Oh, I think we're okay. I think I made 45 copies. Here, pass those around. If you have any extras, give them to that table. 1, 2. Don't pay any attention to this column. You don't even need it. It's not even there. What do you see? Race, gender, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, body type, religion, spirituality, and ability. Okay? So what we're doing, don't write anything down. Yeah. You have a little Likert scale, right? 0 says what? No important. 10 says what? Very important. Okay, so you can use any numbers you want, 0 through 10. Don't do point whatevers. You can make it work, which is the whole number. So what you're doing is not how you feel. I know that everybody in this room treats everyone equally. So what you're going to do is talk in your brain about the impact that these identities have in your life and in your experiences you have seen from the time you were little until now. For instance, my colleagues get mad when I use this example because I don't think it makes sense, but try it. For instance, if it said dexterity, whether it's right hand or left, if dexterity was one of these over here, and I'm trying to decide whether if somebody's right-handed or left-handed, does that matter? Does it really matter? But in my life, I went to a all right-handed school. I was left-handed, but they didn't know. But I adhered to their kind of right-handed standards, which was fine. Didn't really matter. But then when I got to college, I realized that right-handed people would sit in left-handed people's desks, and that is just wrong because they're not left-handed, but they're taking their privilege and they're sitting in their desks. Then I'm going to be like, yeah, hell yeah, that's a 9. That is very important because left-handed people have it bad. Does that make sense? We hear it? How are the people? Who's left-handed in this room? I hear you. Your voice is heard. I didn't go to an RFE school. So it's not just about you. Clearly you can be like, okay, no, it doesn't matter what somebody's race is. Like, I need to treat them the same, or they need the same. But is that really what's happening in society? Is that what is happening on a daily basis when someone who is disabled tries to do the same thing that somebody who's not? So yes, it is a little based on you because it's your experience and perception, because what you're going to do is talk about those things. But right now, you're just going to fill it out for yourself. So don't copy off your neighbor because that won't make sense, right? Do we get it? Ish? It's okay if you botch it. Nobody will know. We're going to take about 10 minutes. So So you gotta kind of pulse check yourself, because if you're still on race after 5 minutes, you're gonna have to roll through it pretty quick. Basically, what you're gonna wanna do is talk about what you put for each one. So if for body type, I said 1, somebody else said 9. That's whacked out. Clearly, we have 3 different perceptions of why we think body type matters and why we don't. So if I put 1, or let's say I put 9, I'm going to say basically, hey, you know what? Everybody on TV is skinny because we don't want to put people who are either overweight or don't look a certain type on there. And we know we're going to hire somebody who looks better because attraction matters, the way that we look at somebody. Maybe that's my experience. Now, the person with a 1's like, oh, crap. All right, I didn't even think of that. I want to change it to a 6 or 7. Or do they want to defend? No, this is why I know in my experience it doesn't really matter. Does that make sense? All right, so at your table, talk about that, and then we're gonna do something else afterward. I don't know what I was trying to say. So you see the other column. What you're gonna do is average your table for each one. So clearly, at this table, you'd say race, and whoever has their calculator out, we're gonna say 8, whatever, and he's gonna add them all up. He's gonna divide by the people, and then you're gonna write that number over on the other side. I'm gonna do that for all of you. We get it?
Nice.
For your table. So basically what that's saying is based on all of your ratings as an individual, your group, this is the identity that you think has or doesn't have the most impact on the way that society kind of deals with, functions, looks at, experiences, treats, these different types of identities, right? So what's the highest over here?
Race. Gender. Ability.
Body type.
Socioeconomic
Holy crap! That's never happened. Ever. So every table has a different answer for the highest. That has never happened.
Poor gender.
So 1. What does that mean? What do we already know?
We're diverse by
Oh,
thing.
that's a fluff word.
We're diverse citizens.
Does that make us diverse because we all have that? What is diverse about it?
We know the probability of you sitting next to this person being diverse to the table. Yeah.
And clearly, though, I mean, there is something to be said, though. I mean, if everybody moved tables, each group average would be different. But there is actually something to be said about the fact that it came out that way. But clearly, our experiences are super different, and the conversations that we had are really different. So here is the problematic part. We cannot unpack why every single table ranks something highest. But give me some buzzes. Let me hear the lowest, too. So what did you say lowest?
body type.
And who had body type, you guys had body type for highest. Okay, that's important. Body type?
Sexual orientation.
No, it was body type.
Oh, what?
It was body type.
Body type?
It was sexual orientation.
Religion, spirituality, ability. Okay.
Ability is ours too.
Okay, yup.
Ability? Okay. So somebody talk to me about that. I'd like to hear from first. We have body type being the lowest and the highest. So tell me, what was some of the conversation around body type at this table? Because clearly it was ranked different ways for a reason.
Is everyone society for it to be skinny or that you should, for girls, have curvatures in the right spot only?
Okay?
I really said it was the lowest.
Okay, now let's be honest. What do we see? All girls, Kyle. And then all guys. I mean, no matter what way you slice it, that's what happened here. Even at other tables where it was body type, there were predominantly more men than there were women. I don't know. I mean, would research probably show us that, yes, women and men view body type very differently? Absolutely. And especially when women are the ones who tend to feel a little... I'm not going to make that word up for myself. We, the way that we view it and the way that we interface with people because of it is very different than the way that men do. So that's probably fair. Somebody talk to me about race. What did we say? Was race still a high one for most tables? Or middle, low, middle? Talk to me about race. What were some of the conversations like at your table?
We definitely knew that it was important. I mentioned that that's I think the most clear of any of them. That's kind of face value. It's complex, but it's still, you can chat about it quickly with someone rather than socioeconomic status. You can't just be like, oh, so you're middle class. I can tell. Kind of something like that.
Okay. So socioeconomic status could be more invisible than race. Yeah.
Well, we had said that like race is one of your first identities, and then like also we just feel like it brings like your history.
Did I say that?
No, you said something else, but yeah, it ties in like your history and stuff, like where you're from and things like that. So we just figure out.
Okay. Anything else?
I feel that race is one of the more important ones because of what he had said. It's not really face value. It's not really visible, and it also encompasses a lot. You can make biases against socioeconomic status of a person or religion or spirituality based on someone's race and usually stereotypes that go along with it.
Yeah. I think a really great point too is when we're talking about visible social identity. I would find it really hard to believe in this room, especially because we are Eastern, right? Eastern is very different than other public institutions in the state. And the things that people say about us, a lot of times, are based on our racial and ethnic and value to diversity. When you look at stuff, I mean, how many people have heard that? Like, we are a criminal school. Careful, we don't want to go to Ipsy at night. Why? Why are they saying that? Timely warnings. And who are the timely warnings? This guy, and that guy, and that guy. And so, it's hard because are African American males committing crimes? I mean, yeah, right? Like, that's not, we're not saying anything that's genius in that. Like, okay, this crime happened and it was an African American. What ends up happening, though, is what happens after that. How we react to that, and the comments that are made. Oh, if you ever go on Andover.com or like read the comments after an article, your IQ just drops. Because people say these kind of overarching, this is EMU, this is Ypsilanti, this is how African American people, which is absolutely ridiculous, right? We know that. But we also say things like after our president got elected, we have this post-racial society. We are post. What? Right, because I'm pretty sure that that's not the case. But we know, like, you can be like, yeah, I mean, we're getting to a better place, right? We are getting to a better place. But does racial profiling happen for white people? What's racial profiling?
People making automatic assumptions.
Okay. So, yeah.
There's automatic assumptions that depending on the color of your skin, you're into certain things. Certain things interest you, you're better at certain things than others. And also, too, it's just out there that if you're a certain color, you're judged intellectually as well. People think if you're a certain color, you're not as smart as other colors.
Absolutely. Good point.
I have great personal experience to this as well. I'm of dark complexion, but I'm African American, and due to the expected stereotypes cast in the neighborhood I grew up, I received a lot of flack over the years for this. In fact, I nearly died, literally. And even to the point of getting profiling, one of my former professors used to be a police officer, and also I've observed it amongst several of my colleagues in the force. It's disconcerting, it really is.
And I think there's two things. One, when it's our experience, it's hard. Like it is hard to listen to other people say that that's not the case when we know it's our experience. And I appreciate what you had said too around intellect and racial profiling. It's absolutely true. There is no way around that. But are white people racially profiled? And I saw you nod your head. Yeah. There is also something to be said where we, white folks, we do feel like we have to overcompensate because we are automatically at times, folks think that we don't get it. Some people do, some people don't. But that is a racial profile. The difference is when two white guys are driving in a car and they pass a police, are those cops turning around? Are those cops having a conversation like, I wonder what they're up to? No, they're driving a car. And so those are the kind of like big picture stuff that we talk about around implications and what that does to us as a person and an identity and where our defense mechanisms kick in. Because why do we get defensive about stuff?
because we feel as if they don't understand. in the
Yeah.
first place, so.
Or we think that they understand. We know that they don't understand. What about gender? What was some of that conversation? And where did gender fall for folks? Was it middle, high, low? What did we say? Middle?
Hi.
Go ahead.
We had Nabila in our group who's but she's from India and she was explaining that women get better treatment, like more opportunities than men in India, which I found really interesting. So it's certainly culturally based.
Which, that is a great point, and that's actually probably the opposite of where my brain was going, but looking at gender from a cultural standpoint in the United States is totally different than looking at it from a Middle Eastern country, for instance. Or I mean, we can say like, oh, we're pretty equal, when there's like countries that women don't have rights in, right? Or the way that they're treated, or when we look at like sexual violence. So not to say, because this was based on your experience, but a great point about culture.
One thing that we talked about was gender roles, like not only like just normal gender, but like if it was a male who was like of a feminine gender, and like how would his perception be at like a job, and who would his chance to get the job? Like,
And depending on what that job is,
Yeah.
so good point also, fair. Which might, I heard some of that talk too around sexual orientation. What did we say about sexual orientation? Important, not important, middle of the road? That's a tricky one. I heard a lot of people say the right things. I think it was over here too. Like, it's a hot button right now, right? This is where everybody's getting on board, and clearly this is my wheelhouse, right? It's my baby, so it's where I get defensive. Like, don't you tell me? No, I'm just kidding. I won't say that. But we are in a country where these folks don't have the same rights. So at the end of the day, we can say, no, it's like a 5 or a 6, because here it doesn't matter. We can go to class, and I like gay people, and I'm not going to judge. But we live in a country where these folks can be fired for the job, like in the state of Michigan. There is no policy that protects gay people or trans people from being fired. I feel the same way, sister. Sing it. Marriage, right? So two same-sex people can't get married. How come? The law says so. And when I go vote, for the most part, if I'm somebody voting against it, why am I voting against it? Why don't I want two same-sex people to get married? No, wrong answer. Wait, she might have said it. Was she like God? So totally fair and valid. Most people we're seeing are voting from a religious standpoint, which is fair. Because if your religion is a religion where you have learned that marriage is between a fair. Is God giving me my tax return? I mean, some people could be like, God gives you everything. Here's the issue. Do we let two atheists get married in this country? And two Muslim people get married in this country? So it's tough when we start bringing the God thing into it. Because we're looking at benefits. That's what we're ultimately talking about. Two gay people, as much as they might love God, I don't know. I mean, I'm not making judgments on that. They want to get married because there's over 1,000 benefits that come along with it. So we get this kind of trickery. Same that we see in bullying, LGBT folks, minorities, people of color.
A lot of times when people say, like, going that extra mile to try to be, like, comfortable, they'll say, like, oh, I'm completely comfortable with gay people, it's totally fine. I just don't want to see it. And that, to me, is just, like, the biggest slap in the face.
Yeah, I agree.
They're obviously not comfortable.
We talk about this. Are there men and women on TV?
Yeah.
People of color on TV? Remember back in the day when the Cosby Show was on and people would be like, well, the Cosby Show, because that was back when we started to not have primetime shows, where we realized that like young people of color don't have role models on TV, right? And so like those shows start popping up, and everybody's like, oh, we have the Cosby Show. It's like one show. And then there's all these like really stereotypical shows that don't do a whole lot of justice, which we see also in the LGBT community. But for gay folks, you damn well better know that they better be funny. We can't have serious gay people on television. They better not be coloring. They better not be saying I love you. But if they're the modified Family Guys, that's hilarious. We're comfortable with that, but we're not comfortable with serious gay people.
Just to piggyback off what you were saying, Charles Brewer is pretty serious. You know him?
Yeah, Charles Brewer. Yeah, but is he
People
on,
like him.
is he on TV though?
Yeah, I mean, he was the dude. Like
That doesn't count. But you are totally right. Charles Brewer is one of the only, I mean, Michigan's lucky to have that. He is an outward identifying African-American gay male, and we don't have much of that in the United States. Like other states definitely don't have that, so that's absolutely fair. But I'm talking some primetime show. I'm like, does Charles have a show? I'm like, I didn't know that. So, what are the other ones? Ability, that one wasn't as big of a deal. So bring this home. We have some conversations. We formulate some things. You all work together. What does this mean? Like, I don't know. We just go. Why do these conversations matter? Why does our department want to have them?
Self-awareness.
Self-awareness. Why else? Social progress. It's pretty easy to dodge in and out of life without thinking about this stuff, right? I mean, even when we did the first part, we were like, I guess I just don't think about this stuff all the time, but it's with us. And not only is it with us, it is a reason why I am reacting or interfacing with this guy versus this guy versus this baby. I might hate babies. I don't care. Just go right now. This is why baby fight. But it matters because it's how we interface. And it's okay if that's how we interface as long as we know why. As long as we can stand up and be like, you know what? I get that this is my bias. But this is my bias because I grew up in the Catholic Church and this is what I believe. Or this is what my parents told me. Or I went to a school where the one token black person stole things all the time. So I know that. Then all of a sudden, that's what our warped perception of people is, but we just have to figure out that that's where it comes from, right? And you guys are working with student centers, and now it matters more to me because I have to see you on a daily basis that you're socially adept. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We feel okay about the hour and 13 minutes that we just spent together?
Yeah.
I appreciate you listening to me and my rants and my raves and my love for diversity. We're gonna go home now.